Hello. Welcome to IoT and JS. This is a gentle introduction to Internet Things. Oh yeah, the other title is IoT Internet Toilets, right? Same talk. Okay. Anyway, welcome. My name is Joe. I work for a little company called MongoDB. I'm a developer advocate and software engineer, and you can catch me here. This might be the first talk you've ever seen where someone is pitching their TikTok. I make some goofy software engineering videos. I don't dance a lot, mostly just making software jokes, but if that's your thing, you should come check it out. All opinions are my own. If I say anything controversial or anything, I'm just speaking for myself, not for my employer. So please don't get me fired. If you want to follow along with any of the source code, resources, slide deck, recording of this talk live, you can check that out at that bit.ly link there at the bottom, or scan that QR code in the upper right hand corner. Whenever I have a link, I will have that QR code up there, but all the resources discussed in this deck can be found there. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Let's jump in. We got a short amount of time here. Only got 20 minutes to talk to y'all today, but I want to talk to you about just introducing IoT and why you should be choosing it for your next IoT project. Then I want to talk about a cool little project I've been working on. It's a little IoT kitty litter box, or a smart kitty litter box. What? And I like to end on it like with next steps and also making wild speculatory remarks about where IoT might be going in the future. So let's just jump in. What the heck's IoT? If you're at this talk, you probably already know, but it's just the internet, but we're putting things on it. Basically anything with a chip on it. All right, we have a bunch of new stuff in there, but I do want to talk about my favorite parts about it. So why I'm interested in IoT. I think that we're at this unique place here, and I love exploring art and tech. And I think that as engineers, we are uniquely suited to explore art and this new medium of putting chips and stuff. I personally like stupid shit. So that's why I built that litter box, right? It's this goofy little thing that I thought was kind of dumb. I want it to be like on that line between just totally dumb and kind of genius. I love that. But I also think that art is something that we are uniquely able to explore here as well. A lot of artists are useful with traditional mediums, but we can do something new here. I don't know. I love pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of with art and tech. That's why I got into it. But I made some fun stuff along the way too. So, IoT. I love it. It's cool. I love stupid shit. And I hope you do too now. I hope you do too. So, JavaScript. If you want to maybe think about building a next IoT project, why would you be picking JavaScript, right? This is not something you hear about often, but I'm going to argue that it actually might be a good use case for you. Not all, but it might be for you. So, why IoT and JS? Well, first of all, why Node? Did you know that 58% of IoT developers self-identify as Node developers? A quorum of developers are already developing IoT projects in Node. This is totally my opinion, but I would argue JavaScript is a wonderful choice for new devs. A lot of devs coming out of boot camps or are just jumping into programming or software engineering are learning JavaScript. It's an easier programming language to learn than traditional languages, other low-level languages which we've traditionally used for embedded hardware. Two examples of that would be C and C++. They're amazing, and there's massive benefits to it, which we're not going to have time to get into today, including like memory management, speed, space, right? All this stuff. Because JavaScript has that garbage collector. It takes care of all that stuff for you. It's a great choice, though. But doing all that memory management is hard for new developers. And if you're just jumping into IoT, just use what you got. Like, use a language that you know how to use, right? Even if you're a Python developer, whatever. Use what you know to get started in it. Learning hardware has enough challenges built in. Like, I like to try to only learn like one new piece of it, so I fully grok that new subject. And if you're coming from a JavaScript background, what the heck? Go and use it. Updating is hella easy too. So traditionally with embedded languages, you have to have that chip and reflash it with the new firmware. With JavaScript, it's a little bit different. If it's connected online, updating a JavaScript project, all you have to do is a git pull and a npm install. And bada bing, bada boom, you're done, right? Super easy to mass update your IoT devices out in the field. Super easy to script that. The internet's already speaking JavaScript. Why don't we just extend that to IoT projects? Makes sense to me. We're already speaking it. We're continuing to speak the language of the web. We're doing this now with a new medium, but it's totally possible. And you may not know this, but there's a ton of existing libraries and APIs out there. The two biggies out there today are Ceylon.js and Johnny 5. Those are the hello worlds there. Today for my IoT Litter Box, I'm actually using Johnny 5 for our project. You can check that out there. I do want to mention too, JavaScript is already great at handling event-driven applications. On the front end and with Node, right? Front end applications, we have like click events triggering some sort of thing that's happened in the DOM. And with Node, right, everything's an event. We're waiting for data to be received by our server. Everything is an event, and we're spinning off callback functions to handle that. The very nature of Node and JavaScript is callback event-driven. And if you think about it, IoT devices in the field, that's all it is. We have some sort of sensor waiting for some sort of event to happen, and then we need to do some action when that event is. It's the same architecture that we're building. So we're already used to building with this asynchronous structure. We're just taking this to the hardware now. And it turns out that's actually a great use case for it. Okay. We're booking it here. So this is my favorite part though. So IoT kitty litter boxes. Let's jump in. So I built a internet connected litter box for my cat. I was trying to think of like fun, stupid ideas to build, and I just wanted to explore some new IoT concepts. But I want to walk you through like my development process and kind of lessons I learned along the way too. But I thought this was a stupid idea, but I did a little bit of homework on it actually after I built it. I found out it's actually already a thing, right? And if you look at the price tag, that's $500. That's a lot of money. Mine's not quite this fancy, but it's pretty fancy. Most litter boxes don't connect the web. The point is, right, there's a thing here. I wanted to be on the line of genius and stupid. I think that I got close. Okay, so let's talk about what this thing does and how it works. So we have our box, and first thing I'm tracking is how often it gets cleaned. And I do that by placing a magnetic sensor on the lid. So when it opens up, I know that the box is now in maintenance mode. I know that that box is now ready to be cleaned. So I do the cleaning. I add litter, scoop the litter out, take out the waste, whatever. And then when I put that box back on, that magnetic sensor closes, and I know that we have a new stable weight. Basically, every time that it goes into cleaning mode, we're changing the base weight of the box. So we reinitialize it once that closes. And then we wait. So we wait for a cat to enter the box, and then we do a couple things. One, I'm marking that a litter event has occurred. So when a cat-sized object enters the box, I'd say, hey, great, someone's probably going to the bathroom. So it enters the box, and it could be any cat-sized object, right? It could be a raccoon or a possum, which, who knows? Like, I have my windows sealed, but you never know, right? Anyway, it's going to record that event. And I'm also passively measuring my cat's weight. So I wait for him to kind of settle down. I take a weight sensor, weight measurement, and then I submit all the data to the cloud to be saved. More specifically, MongoDB database in the cloud, which we'll get to in just a second. But once that cat leaves the box, I wait a little period, a minute, for the box to settle down, and then I reset with a new base weight of the box. And then I wait for a new event to happen. Either a cleaning event or another event of my cat using the restroom again. Whew, cool, right? So it's passive measuring the weight, I'm measuring cleaning periods, and I'm measuring how often he goes to the bathroom. And I'm charting all that using MongoDB charts in order to see if that is to track anything over, like measurements over time. Again, if you want to see any of the source code for this, it's all open source, all online. You can check that bit.ly link out or use that QR code. Okay, so how did I first build this thing, right? Well, the first step for any IoT project is actually just making it LED blink. That is the hello world of IoT projects. You can see here, this is my real project. I filmed it as I was building it. I'm using a Raspberry Pi, and I'm just making an LED blink on and off. That basically just tells me I've initialized the board correctly, my circuits are fine, and Johnny 5, the hardware interface I'm using for Node, is working correctly. And boom, got that working. So how does that actually look, though? So using Johnny 5 is compatible with a bunch of different boards, including the Raspberry Pi, which is what I'm using, and I would recommend for new developers since it's so easy to use. And we're just initialize that board. We're saying, hey, Johnny 5, we're using a Raspberry Pi board. And then we have a callback function on ready. So that means when the board is initialized, Raspberry Pi is finally up and running, we instantiate a new LED. And you see there it has that P113. That means it's on the GPIO's 13th pin. To be honest, I have no idea where that is. I have to Google it every single time I'm interfacing it. But it has these little pins that allows you to do input-output from the real world. And then it's an LED and we just say blink. And that's it. Then you get your magic blinking LED. That's all the code that's running. Super easy. So we're just initializing that board. And then when it's ready, we say, hey, there's an LED on this pin. Can you tell it to blink, please? And it does. All right, we got to sit through this all again. Great. So we got an LED to blink. Cool. Whoop-de-doo. Let's make a toilet, though. Come on, Joe. So let's take a look at that. Same thing. We're waiting for that board to initialize. And we just have a state that says whether it's ready to go or not. But if you notice, I'm initializing a switch. That switch is that thing that tells whether that thing is off, the lid is off or on. And I'm just switching the global state to be either in maintenance mode or not. And I'm doing things when that gets triggered. But they're all callback functions. Again, they're events we're waiting for in the real world, and we're writing code to be triggered when this happens. So let's take a look at this. I shot a very poor photo of this, but I have a magnetic switch on the door, which you'll see here, that little white thing glued there. So it can tell when I open and close it. You'll see there on the computer, it's registering those events. Every single time it opens and closes, you can determine, you can make choices, make changes in your code base based on the event. So when it opens up, boom, I'm in maintenance mode. Chill, pause, do your cleaning, and wait for that to close so you can reinitialize the base weight of that box. This is the fun part, the load cells. The load cells, think of load cells as this is basically a bathroom scale connected to the web, right? So I just have these tiny little nubbins, and they measure the weight of the box. Really precisely, actually. But I ran into a problem. Admittedly, I bought some load cells online from Alibaba. Awesome, super cheap. But I could not actually find, with Johnny 5, it couldn't interface with that. It couldn't interface with load cells. Luckily, I found a Python library that can actually do that. And I actually used the spawn child process in Node, which I've never used before, to spin up that Python process. I built like a really complicated thing first of all, but this was a much better, easier solution. My Node script is responsible for spinning up this Python subprocesses. Point is, though, I'm going to show you some code here, but you can read data in from that Python script, and it sends that up to the node. All you're doing is writing to the standard log in Python, boom, pops it up, and you can read that on data. Process standard output on data. It's amazing. Okay, so let's take a look at what that actually looks like in practice, though. That plywood is actually, the load cells are underneath of it. And you can see that every 10th of a second, it's taking a measurement. So I'm pressing on that board, and it's hard to get both these in the same shot, but you can see it's actually registering the pressure placed on the board every single time I put weight on it. And I can start doing code based on the amount of pressure on there. And again, we're waiting for that cat-sized object to put pressure on that load cell. Oh, all right. We're booking here. IoT time series data. I work for MongoDB. I gotta talk about this. But I want to talk about my time series data and why a document model works so well for IoT. But I have some metadata about my cat and the box, and I'm using every day. I produce a new document, and I push a new event every single time there's a maintenance or bathroom event, along with its passive weight if it's a bathroom event. But I designed this based on the charts I'm using to display this. I want to see the events per day. So I designed my time series schema to actually reflect how I'm digesting that data. Okay, so this is actually how my box got put together all again. Hide all the wires in there. And you can see there, that's my plug, and I plug it in, it's good to go. But you see that little Raspberry Pi, just plugged it right in there. And that's my cat. I tricked him with some treats to sit on that box. He doesn't usually hang out in this litter box, but okay, I gotta wrap up. You only have 5 minutes left. What does the future look like? You can use this footage 5 years from now to roast me for my horrible predictions, but this is my best guess. Future of IoT. We're gonna see smaller and more powerful devices, and I suspect we're gonna see more and more processing being done on the edge, which is in those devices, as opposed to being sent back to a central data store to handle. As these devices get more and more powerful, they're going to be responsible for doing more and more of the data processing on them. We're going to see JavaScript with a smaller footprint and better able to embed within smaller devices. Right now it's still pretty chunky, takes a lot of memory management and a lot of power, But I think that will continue to get more optimized for hardware devices in the future. We'll see better hardware support, i.e. my load cells didn't work great. Found a workaround for it, but we're going to see some better hardware support in the future. And with everything, batteries are the choke point. They produce a ton of heat, and the breakthroughs just don't exist yet. With IoT out in the field, right, we have, especially if it's a globally deployed thing, powering those devices is the bottleneck. I don't think processing power, hardware, I don't think that's going to be the problem in the future. And power is where the problem's going to be at. Okay. Whew. IoT and JavaScript. Quick recap here. We did an intro. What is IoT? It's anything you put a chip in. It can be anything. IoT is huge. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. And why should you pick JavaScript for your next IoT project? Well, let me tell you. Did you know that most IoT devs already self-identify as no developers? 58% in fact. JavaScript, I would argue, is great for new devs. I think it has a less steep learning curve because it has a garbage collector and it handles memory management for you. Plus, a lot of new devs are already learning JavaScript. Just use what you know, It's easy to update over a network. Internet already speaks JavaScript. Why change? Tons of existing libraries and frameworks. Use them, and the architecture of JavaScript matches the event-driven nature of IoT projects already. Let's leverage that. Then we talked about my IoT kitty litter box. We gave the hello world, right, using the board, making the LED blink. Anytime you start a hardware project, always make the LED blink. Got to make sure you got everything initialized properly. And we talked about how to program those load cells and switches, and we talked about that spawn child process a little bit with those load cells. And then lastly, I gave wild speculations for the future of IoT, including it being smaller, more powerful on those little devices and chips. We're going to see more optimized JavaScript. We're going to see better hardware support in general for JavaScript libraries. And with anything, batteries and power is going to continue to be the bottleneck for IoT projects in the future. Oh, okie dokie. So, if I've inspired you at all to become an IoT and JavaScript master, how do you do it? Just do it. Pick some project up, buy a Pi on Amazon or Alibaba, and just try it out. Mess it up, blow up some boards, make something stupid, make something just for you. You don't have to monetize it. Just make something fun. I try to learn, I'm always trying to pick a side project that's going to push my comfort with every project I do. And you're not going to learn it from watching me yabber on about it. You're going to learn about it from doing it yourself. Make something fun just for you. Lastly, I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening to me yabber on. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun being here. Again, if you want any of the resources here, check out that bit.ly link or scan that QR code. Otherwise, I would love to follow up with you on Twitter. It's the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah, have so much fun. You all have been the best, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Bye.
Hey, Joe, thanks. That was a really fun session. You have a really nice way of simplifying something as complex as IoT.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun, and thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So, I'm curious for people who make hardware look so easy, because I usually set things on fire before they work. How did you get into this? And I can see your backdrop is full of tools and things you might play with. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, I dabble, and I should tell you that I left this out of this talk, but making this IoT kitty litter box, I actually burned through 2 Raspberry Pis from miswiring stuff. So sometimes I set stuff on fire too.
It's better than burning through 2 cats, though.
That is true. That's true. Yeah, no one got shocked. No one died. Just had to buy some new cheap boards again.
Nice.
But it's hard. It can be hard. Jumping into hardware is tricky. Especially a lot of us, software people, we're not electrical engineers. You know what I mean? Right. It's understanding circuits is a whole other thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not even good at it either. It's been just a lot of Googling and stealing circuit diagrams from other people that I don't understand. It's
I do feel like it's become sort of more Legoized or Duploized than it was 10 years ago, at least. So there are things you can follow and plug together. And you're like, I'm a real hardware boy, but really you're just soldering on the dots kind of thing. And even that can be challenging, but that's a lot easier than I'm forging something from scratch,
Oh, 100%, which is fine. I know Adafruit's doing amazing stuff, and There's amazing just like tutorials online. I feel like it's like the equivalent of copy pasting from Stack Overflow in your project. I'm just like taking these things other people have done and trying to see if I can
a couple years ago, I tried to get my daughter into engineering a bit, and she's curious about it, but didn't do much with it. But I got her like the Adafruit round thing and using TypeScript. A friend of mine had Jingle Bells programmed using TypeScript. So I like put that on her to show it to her, and she plugged it in, and then she unplugged it from like the power source. And she's like, why doesn't it work? And I'm like, you know, got a ways to work. It's still a little less approachable for her at this point, but it is
I
cool
get that though. Like having like hardware is like less abstract. I think it's a hard part with programming in general. It's just like this like ethereal abstract thing that you can like kind of see, but like hardware you get to like touch and play with. And like I feel like it's a great way to jump into programming too if you're new to it.
As you've seen from my talks, I've been playing with this thought computing device called a Neurosity Notion. And my ultimate goal is to take that and take a robotic dog and think bark and have the dog bark on command. Because my dog will only bark when I don't want it to. So it'd be nice to have a dog that only barks when I think it should bark.
Oh, that's amazing. That like brain tech stuff like blows my mind.
It is really cool. It's
so cool. And I feel like we've only done like these like fun little novel things with it. I would love to like see some like more advanced stuff with it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's turning a switch on and off or
it's coming. It's really it's moved a long way in the past few years. So
oh my god, I'm just thinking like accessibility stuff perspective. Like that's going to be huge.
Well, exactly. Like the reason I got interested in it was one of the early dojo contributors has come down with ALS and he's losing his motor skills.
Wow.
Right now he's using voice stuff, but he's soon going to lose his voice. And so if he could think stuff, at least he would be able to communicate a bit longer what he needs and so on.
Wow, that's incredible. That'd be incredible. I hope that like becomes a thing.
So I guess that's sort of an odd segue to COVID. I mean, like this is a crazy time. I mean, it's cool we're able to do all this stuff, but how are you staying sane?
I loved it. I think actually this is weird. So like, I mean, obviously I have like my like random bouts of anxiety. I just turned 30 over quarantine too, which was the saddest birthday I've ever had.
You're like, here's my cake. I'm gonna blow it out to myself.
I had like I ordered cake and ice cream and like a meal and just ate a meal by myself. Wasn't exactly what I envisioned my 30th, but like it's fine.
You know, it's probably more memorable than like passed out drunk somewhere. So you know,
totally
trade-offs, right? Yeah.
We'll do a redo later on when things open up again, but like whatever. But I've been like one of the biggest things I've been working on actually is like TikTok, which is like I feel weird as a 30-year-old software engineer talking about TikTok.
It's an interesting trend for HalfStack because Jen Looper's talk was how to train yourself to be a TikTok trainer with dance moves and motion detection. So
yes,
I think this is every HalfStack, there's some new trend or something that becomes popular. I think this is bringing TikTok to the non-teens or non-children, you know?
That's what I'm hoping too. It's like, cause like, I feel like right now it's like the Wild West days of like YouTube or something. Like there's this thing here and like software engineers were trying to figure out like how to use it. And I don't know, I feel like people think when I tell people on TikTok, they just ask if I dance, which I don't make. I mostly make programming jokes and like, I don't know, but it's interesting. It's like this new platform for like making fun, engaging content too.
Yeah.
And I just love making it too. I feel like I've been like, we're like so like separated, but it's been so weird. But TikTok makes me feel like actually more connected with people. I've been doing like Twitch streaming and making these stupid videos.
Was it the platform that was called Musical.ly before?
Yes. Yeah.
So exactly. My daughters were playing with it like, I want to say like 2 years ago. I just looked at them like, what are you doing? I don't get it. But then they look at me the same way with hardware. So, you know, it's all good, right?
I know. Yeah, no, totally. Well, I think too, it's like, there is a younger audience on it too. And it's like such a great way to reach this like new generation of engineers too.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like getting out there, like, and showing this content. I don't know. I think that there's like, you can make a difference on this platform for a younger generation.
Yeah. So do you think there are things that, like, there's this theory, I mean, there's like Atwood's law that like anything can be done in JavaScript will eventually be done in JavaScript. Do you think there are things from like the IoT space or TikTok or any of these interests that could really like be improved on the web or just get better from a JavaScript perspective? Like what's kind of driving you nuts that hasn't come along enough lately?
You know what's weird? I feel like it's like, this isn't revolutionary either, but I feel like it's like the tooling is great for devs right now. Mostly, I think it's a little too complicated probably, which we're trying to fix. I feel like the big thing right now is just like training devs to like cool it on libraries. I've been a technical lead at a couple huge websites, and like the hardest part is always telling people just like this whole thing exists here, but try to cool it on it because it slows on our website, and it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone brings in a different version of moment.js, and like
I was just gonna say, like, you think I need to translate a date instead of using the JavaScript date API. You pull in 60K of moment.
Can you just like maybe try just using the built-in date tools before we pull in?
Like there's a point where you need it, but there's a point where
absolutely,
I'm like, I just need to translate this one date from. And JavaScript has an API for that, and it's not perfect in every scenario, but it's pretty good. And
I get it. It's like if you're like a new dev, like it's just like this thing's here, great, it's already built, but like understanding like the performance hit of like taking in a library like that is like kind of hard.
Because and the other thing I hear people say is, well, I've got like 2 megs of images. Why can't I use 2 megabytes of JavaScript? And I'm like, it's not the same thing.
Totally.
Like, your time across the wire may be the same, but your processing time is more significant for code.
100%. Yep. And caching's different. Like there's a lot of variables involved with that, right? Yeah, I totally agree. It's just I don't know. I feel like we just need to like just slow down a little bit. Yeah.
So it's actually interesting. Like with I've been working on Dojo for like 15 years, and the whole point of modern Dojo is to make a super streamlined, super small, easy to understand, easy to start with, like reactive framework, right? And the idea is, I don't want you to have to think about Webpack. I don't want you to have to think about all these things. I want you just to be able to write some code, get it working. We have TypeScript to keep you out of trouble. Like the idea is to just actually not require a PhD in JavaScript to be productive anymore. You know,
I love that, and I think that's going to continue to be a trend in all languages. And like infrastructure, most of all, like understanding Kubernetes is like a whole thing right now. But like we should make making programming and like deploying that easier. And I think that's going to just keep getting more abstracted away from us.
There definitely seems to be a trend in things that are complex, like Kubernetes internationalization, localization, where they're too long to write them out. And when the acronym is too long, you need an abbreviation with the number of letters in the middle.
I've never thought that before. That's so funny. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a bad sign. I love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's about all I have for now, but thanks for making the time, and thanks for appearing here, and we hope to see you in real life at HalfStack in the future. And
hopefully I'll see everyone who's here in real life someday. But thank you so much for having me. I love this. This was so much fun. Great conference.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.